Good morning, guys. Welcome to Bound for Glory on SYN. I'm your host, Jordan, and I'm with Joe, Matt Joyce, Matt Marsden, Pete Damon.
How are we all?
Yeah,
good night.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was the Bulldogs showed something more that the Magpies didn't show. I don't know. It's hard to read into. The Dogs certainly had the lion's share of opportunity, but they kind of showed how weak they are in as far as forwards go.
Yeah, they showed that they didn't have a forward line, basically.
Because the ball was just floating around the half-forward line for most of the first half, and they could have been up by 5+ goals. And you look at it, and they kept the opposition to 4 goals at half-time. They were doing well in defence, and yet they still only led by a couple of kicks.
Griffin was dominating all night.
He was. He should have won best on ground for
mine. If the Dogs had won, then he would have been best on ground. But that doesn't take anything away from Pendlebury. Although I can't remember one of his touches from the first half.
Well, my dream team can, and that's all that matters.
That's not how.
Talking about dream team, Brian Lake did pretty well.
He did do pretty well.
Yeah, it's good to see him back up and about, I guess, after such a horrible year last year. He's a good player, and he's showing that he's still got it.
Yeah, listening to Lindsay Gilbey in the stands, it sounds like if he's not challenged, he doesn't care. But if he is, then he goes all out.
Well, I think he did a really good job on Cloke, and we'll be talking about Cloke later on today. Also on the show, we're going to be talking to James Strauss and Emma Quayle.
From the Melbourne Football Club?
Yep, from Melbourne Football Club, and Emma Quayle as well.
The famous Age columnist.
Yes, author of The Draft was quite a good book.
And the book with Adam Romanowskis. Can't think of the title of it.
But the name of it.
Yeah, she's the expert on the draft, anyway.
Basically. All right, so more on the Doggies and the Magpies. Do we kind of read into that game? It was kind of scrappy. The Magpies, firstly, they're 4-2. They could be much worse, and they've got the growing injury list, obviously. Where do we see them finishing in the top 8 or not?
Oh, they'll finish in the top 8, but they won't challenge for the premiership, in my opinion. They really need Luke Ball, and they don't have him, and they don't have any replacement for him.
They'll be the kind of team that you don't want to face in the prelim because they've just got so much finals experience.
But will they make it that far? That's the question.
No.
Because look, there's some contenders showing up that we didn't really think would be up there. Sydney seem to be making a name for themselves. They got a pretty soft draw, but we'll be talking about that later.
We will be talking about
Joycey shaking his head over here.
Some of us thought Sydney were going to be up there, but
they're always around 6th or so, but not
top 4 or first. No, they're second behind the Eagles. Who have an equally soft draw, but again, we'll talk about that more later.
We will.
Apart from Sydney and West Coast, who else is going to challenge? Hawthorn haven't looked good. Geelong haven't looked good.
Is this
Can Collingwood
for top 4 or
for the premiership or
top 4?
I think Hawthorn will get it.
You'd think Hawthorn, they've started poorly, but you'd think that they'd finish off the season well enough to finish top 4.
Carlton?
Yeah, you'd think Carlton would be up there. They've had a relatively easy draw thus far, so I guess we'll kind of see what they're really made of, whether they're a top 4 team or not.
Yeah.
But look, the next month's going to be very interesting as far as the way the ladder shapes up. The first month's usually always a little bit up and down, but I guess we'll see which teams are actually for real and which aren't.
Have we actually seen that it's a lot more open this season? Because I think we thought that there would be about 5 or 6 teams who are really up there, and then there'd be a loggerjam. But there seems that some of those loggerjam teams have sort of moved up a little bit in a way, like they're challenging some of the higher teams.
Just wait until the bye rounds are completed, because then it'll really be a much more accurate representation of where the competition's at, rather than having one team play the bottom 5 teams and everyone goes, they'll be top 8, that sort of thing.
What about the Bulldogs? We talked about Collingwood. What about the Western Bulldogs? We're not too sure how to read into their performances, seeing as they went goalless in the first quarter against GWS, but still won comfortably. They seem to be struggling without that tall forward. So what do we think for them for this season?
Well, surely they're just waiting for free agency then, aren't they?
I see them as a very up and down team. I don't think they'll be challenging for the 8 this year, but if they can get a tall forward, then they've got the midfield group that can take them to deep in the finals.
Yeah, if you look at the team, they've still got the personnel to get it done in the midfield, but that forward line really, really does struggle a lot.
Although Cooney's kind of past it now.
Yeah, and he's admitted that he's past it as well. He's not going to get back to his best. And his best, while it was good, it wasn't groundbreakingly good.
Oh, Brownlow good.
Brownlow
apparently.
good. Oh, that's a, yeah.
Lukey Dalhouse was exceptional.
Yeah,
last night.
he's a
that
little
bit of
dynamo.
play in the middle where he just stepped around a few players, like Pendlebury lunged at him and didn't get close. It was pretty good.
One of the commentators compared him to a young Gary Ablett.
That's what I thought. Like I was watching and I thought he looked a lot like Ablett. The way he moved around the clearances and able to sidestep people.
I think he's more of a young Ben Nason, to be honest.
Setting the bar pretty
Exactly.
low, are we?
Whatever happened to Ben Nason?
He's in the sandful somewhere.
He did get delisted.
Yeah, he's too small.
Isn't he?
He was their highest goal scorer one year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
No,
the first
he
he
was
did well
second-
the first
second
year.
highest.
Well, that was 2010, where
Okay,
second
behind
highest goal
Rewalt.
scorer was
He only-
15 goals.
He only played 2 seasons, didn't he?
Yeah.
And wow, no, I didn't know he'd been cut. The Richmond are cutting players that did well for a couple of years, and yet they keep Daniel Jackson on the list.
Don't get me started. All right.
I think we're going to have to go to some SYN messages.
SYN Radio. Oh, is this a goal? Oh. This is a Benchwarmers profile. Scott Gumbleton is currently listed as a centre-half forward for Essendon in the Australian Football League. Recruited in 2006, he was picked up as the number 2 draft pick at Essendon and was seen as one of the top key position players for his age group. Then the injuries started. Since then, Scott has played 22 games spanning between 2007 and 2011, kicking only 22 goals for his career and averaging almost 10 disposals a game. Scott Gumbleton has earned his place as a bench warmer, warming the bench upwards of 90 games by the end of the 2011 Premiership season. You can catch the bench warmers 9 a.m. Sundays only on SYN!
SYN, wait, what are we making again?
Radio.
We are back on SYN, and we're going to go over the draw so far. So my main gripes are the media and supporters and everyone basically beating up a few certain teams: Adelaide, St Kilda, Sydney and West Coast. Now, everyone's proclaiming that West Coast and Sydney are going to be grand finalists, but they've had ridiculously easy draws so far. I'm just going to read off a few of the people that they've faced. West Coast have played the Bulldogs, Melbourne, GWS, Hawthorn at home and Richmond away. Now, Hawthorn and Richmond were the only games where they were remotely challenged. I think it was 4 and 10 points for those two, and then the others were, 10-goal thrashings. Understandably so, given the opposition. And Sydney had GWS, Freo at home. We know how well Freo plays away from home. Port, North at home, and Hawks in Tasmania. So the only challenging game that they've really had, no offence to North, is Hawks in Tasmania, and that's not even Hawthorn's home ground. So, it's not that good so far. And the Saints have had the easiest first 5 rounds in history, in my opinion, and they've still lost twice. Port, Gold Coast, Bulldogs, Freo at home, and Melbourne. I mean, does it get easier than that, other than having GWS in there as well, which they will have fairly soon? And Adelaide's only difficult game has been Hawthorn, which they've lost, and the other games have been Gold Coast, Bulldogs, GWS, and Port. I mean, seriously. Thoughts, boys?
Look, Adelaide is just, they're feasting on the lower teams, and I mean, like, Hawthorn looked a class above them, but it doesn't. I think we can still read into that form. They weren't looking too bad against them, but look, Saints have had an easy draw so far. They've been quite underwhelming for what they've had.
Well, it doesn't say a lot for the Saints as well if you look at their draw, and they really should be without a loss thus far. And for them not to be is kind of laughable in a way.
Good to see Lenny back, though. All that
yeah,
goal.
it is good back to see
goal.
Lenny. Oh, that, refer to it as that
goal.
But who else? Yeah, Adelaide, Sydney's the one that gets me, and Sydney and their supporters are now pumping themselves up as top 4, if not premiership potential favourites.
Yeah.
Look, no. Just no. And the annoying thing about that is, to add on your mini rant there, if you look at Sydney's draw thus far, it's been soft. So I kind of looked at the rest of their draw for the next couple of months. You think, all right, well, obviously it's going to get a little bit harder. It doesn't. They could be potentially 12-0, which is really... They seem to play the bad teams twice and seldom the good teams. And when they do, they're playing them up in Sydney.
Yeah.
So really, top 8 kind of for them is pretty much a given at this stage because of their draw.
I mean, Freo at home have been... Freo away from home, have been better than previous, but they're still not up there. And you don't want to watch any Freo games since Ross Lyon came on.
No, Fremantle at Fremantle is a hard game to play, especially with Ross Lyon coaching and that shutdown crappy play that we hate watching. But Fremantle away from home, they're very vulnerable. They don't seem to play to their strengths, which is, chip, flood the ball, get every man around the contest style. But look, it's hard to watch.
The old Fremantle.
The old Fremantle.
The pre-Ross Lyon Fremantle. They were exciting.
They had potential. The potential to be an attacking team. Poor Matty Pavlich is all I can say. He's going to suffer like Riewoldt suffered.
Well, at least they've brought in AFL superstar John Anthony to...
the key forward.
The key forward,
obviously.
Is he playing for Claremont or against Claremont this week?
Did he get? I don't know if he got dropped or not.
Did he get dropped?
We will
have
so.
a look.
I think he put in enough of a performance in the forward line for Fremantle to get another game, but that doesn't say a whole lot.
Yeah.
He did kick 50 goals for
Collingwood,
but
that was when we had that many injuries.
Look, if you can kick 50 goals, that's great, but if you don't do it consecutively, or even worse, if you go from kicking 50 goals to kicking less than 10.
He was fine on the lead. It's just when someone was on him.
He can't mark the ball. He just can't mark it. He can't mark the ball. He can't kick the ball. He can't gather the ball. He can't hand pass the ball. He's not. He has the potential. We've seen him do that, but he's just not that style of player anymore, it seems.
Yeah, and what a head, honestly.
What a massive head. John McCarthy, it's challenging him for the biggest what a head. So,
what about Brett Ebert?
Yeah, he's got a what a head.
What a head.
Jordan, Jared.
Lots of Port Adelaide things and lots of heads over there.
Lots of heads.
We're going to head to an ad break now.
You're listening to SYN Radio.
Klingan pub, vi chodpu which kup dak mutai which vi sachnis.
The Klingonian ambassador would like you to know that he has a live cat in his pants.
Jikup vach ji.
And he enjoys it.
Pavam wab jub bi it willap. Dach 90.7 duck li.
The Klingonian ambassador would like to add that you should listen to the Sci-Fi Hiker's Guide to the Galaxy, available on SYN 90.7 from 3 p.m. until 4. That or... Okay, I'll be completely honest, I have no idea what this guy's saying.
Kapwach.
That's not a Bantosaurus. This is a Bantosaurus.
3 to 4:30, Tuesdays on SYN.
Damn you, Godzilla!
You're back on Bound for Glory on SYN. Give us a text, 0427 767 767.
It's been so long since we've heard from you, we really are desperate.
And it's free as well, which is always lovely.
Yes, it is.
And we do actually have a couple of texts in here.
We'll go over them at the end of the show, I think. Or are they relevant?
They're relevant to what we just talked about. The first one, well, Strauss has come in and he's given us a couple. The first one was that I think the Pies are just building up. Remember, they peaked about round 15 last year, then faded. Better to start slow and finish hard. Write them off at your own peril.
Well, maybe you should peak at round 16 and then you'll do a bit better this year.
That is true, but last year Collingwood didn't have so many injuries.
True.
So.
And I think, remember, it was Geelong who started slowly last year. They were still winning, but only just. Where Collingwood was absolutely belting every team, and everyone thought, oh, here we go. And then towards the end, they just sort of ran out of gas.
The sports science term is tapering off.
Yeah. Big old Butterfin.
And the second text we got in was, still think the Saints will beat the Hawks, though. Hawks playing average footy.
Saints playing very average footy.
Yeah.
Saints
they nearly lost to Melbourne.
Yeah. As we've said, Saints aren't playing very impressive footy at the moment themselves, and they haven't exactly had a hard draw, so...
Exactly.
I can't really see them too much.
Yeah. We'll go to a quick segment on big contract offers that we've had lately. Not we had.
Oh, nice if we had them.
3AWs, SEN, please.
Come at us, please. You're more than welcome. My inbox is open.
All right, fellas. Well, the big story this week's been circulating around Travis Cloke's future beyond this season. At the start of the season, he was heavily linked to GWS, and Stephen Silvani came out this week saying they're targeting any quality uncontracted players, so not just Cloke. Obviously, the big story this week was that Freo has offered Cloke a contract, reportedly around $900,000 per year, as opposed to his current contract between 450 to 500,000. Cloke did knock back an offer from Essendon a couple of years back, which was around 500,000. So that's probably what he was worth at about then. This could suggest that money isn't really a factor for him, but like if your contract's nearly doubled, I think you'd be crazy to stay at the Pies.
With the Essendon offer, that was with a whole preseason draft snafu. Like he could have just walked into that and then it would have taken. Yeah, I think that was just a play by David Cloke to pump up his value a bit, because the Clokes are known to be money grubbing and yeah.
As an understatement, money grubbing.
Wasn't Carlton linked to him last year?
I don't know.
Don't think so.
Carlton's more placed to get people this year with people like superstar Brock McLean coming out of contract and all that sort of stuff.
Re-sign him up 5 years. Look, if Hurley can get a 5-year contract, Brock McLean can. Anyway, back to the story at hand.
Yeah, look, the big thing is where's Freo going to fit him in the salary cap? At the moment, Matty Pavlich is on the veterans list, and I think Aaron Sandilands will be moving on to that next year. So that gives him a bit of some change to use. And Fife and Broughton are probably underpaid at the moment. This means that Freo probably do have the cap room. Jack Anthony, our favourite player, his contract expires next year. So if they could pay him out and maybe back end the deal and give Cloke a lot of money at the end of the contract, that could probably work.
Do we know how much Kepler Bradley's on?
And Zach Dawson?
Not enough. I like Kepler.
Why? Just why?
He's a good player when he's on.
When he's on?
Yeah, come on. No. He's on once a season, maybe.
Against Richmond.
Everyone turns on against Richmond.
Yeah, especially Fev. God damn it, Fev.
Oh.
We probably should mention this did originate from a Collingwood board discussion, and then
certain journalists that we will not name currently, Mark Robinson. But no, look, if the worrying thing regarding Cloke for me, if I was a Collingwood supporter, is that he hasn't come out and said, no, I'm committed to the club or I'm going to re-sign just at the end of the year. He's just said, I'm not going to say anything. And from the track record and the history that we've seen, Gary Ablett said he's not going to say anything till the end of the year. Who else did we have last year? Some of the GWS
Scully.
boys. Scully said he's not going to talk, except he apparently said to a certain president that he was staying, but that's another story. Anyway, yeah, look, he hasn't committed at all. He's not having the greatest season so far. All the signs at the moment are pointing to him moving elsewhere. So, yeah, I guess.
Is he going to go to Freo, though? That's the only thing. Like, if you've got GWS offering similar money and Freo have Ross Lyon...
The thing is, if Freo offer a contract, GWS will be able to match it and more.
And you're not going to basically be in a Freo forward line.
Yeah, a Freo forward line.
Well, you might kick a goal a game because the way it goes.
Look, speaking of how he's going to fit in, I think he should probably go to Freo if they're offering just under $1 million. Like even if GWS can pay more, I think Cloke would still obviously want to try hit a premiership, which I think they could do. They've got the players around him that could give him that quality delivery that he needs to kick maybe 50 a year with Pavlich chipping in with 30 to 40.
But it's sort of a lose-lose situation for him. It's either go to GWS where you'll get limited opportunity because of the lack of quality in the players, or you go to Fremantle, which play a defensive style of game, and he's not going to get much use of the ball forward.
Well, maybe if they brought in Cloke, they would make a more attacking
They've
game
got
style.
Pavlich. They've got Pavlich, and they still play defensively.
Yeah, but they need Pavlich to plug holes everywhere.
They need about 3 Pavliches at least.
If they had 22 Pavliches, that would be amazing. And one Sandilands.
One Sandilands, yeah. You're going to have the Sandilands in there. So we might go to the interview.
Yeah, we're going to try again with James Strauss.
Hopefully this will work.
Fingers crossed.
So, enjoy.
Here's Straussy.
Alright, so James, how's your leg? And how's the rehab been so far?
So far it's going pretty well. I've played 3 games early on for Casey, and then I've missed the last 4 or 5 just with the leg. But rehab's going alright, but I suppose it's a bit frustrating, but hopefully I can get out there this week or the week after and get back playing footy.
And James, who's best helped you deal with your injury worries at the club over your career so far?
I suppose specifically with my leg, I've spoken to Sam Blees a fair bit because he had a similar injury when he before he got to the club when he first got drafted, and then I spoke to Michael Barlow a fair bit about breaking my leg and things I'd experienced coming back. And then, I suppose they're the main two blokes that I've spoken to about my leg.
Sounds good. So, what do you consider your strengths and weaknesses as a footballer?
My strengths and weaknesses are, I suppose, I like to say my kicking is probably my major strength. And I know weaknesses, just performing week in, week out. Just making sure I'm consistent every game. So that's probably a major thing that I've got to work on and keep working on.
And in terms of your development, what player do you model yourself on most?
I've watched a fair bit of Heath Shaw, just the way he defends and also rebounds out of half-back. So, I like to model myself on him and guys like Brendan Goddard, because they're all good kicks and all good defenders. So, those types of blokes.
Yeah, it sounds good. So, how have Mark Neeld and Neil Craig impacted you as a player since your arrival?
I suppose, as I said before, just being consistent is probably something I've got to work on. So it's starting on the track, and they've helped me a fair bit when I've been out there. But I haven't been out there much. I suppose the biggest thing that the whole group's seen in Mark Neeld and Neil Craig is the hardness of the footy. So I think you saw that on Saturday night. Just the effort the boys gave with the hardness of the footy. So that's probably the biggest thing.
And what do they discuss in terms of the game plan? You mentioned hardness at the footy, but and what do they expect from the playing group?
I suppose just a consistent effort. But at the moment, they're not really rating our games on marks, kicks, handballs. It's all about first, second, third efforts, making contest, just making sure that the opposition doesn't get easy footy and an easy run out of our forward line into our back line.
All right. So, what sort of personal goals then have you set yourself as a player this year?
Firstly, I suppose just want to get back to playing footy. So I'm trying to leave no stone unturned with getting back in my rehab. And I suppose once I get back playing, just playing consistent footy and doing my bit for the team.
And just the last one, mate. Who would you say is the hardest worker at the club? And a bit of a controversial one, probably hard for you to answer, but who do you think's the laziest at the club?
The laziest? It's probably pretty hard, but everyone works really hard. Everyone gives 100%, so there's no one's actually lazy, so...
That's good to hear then.
All right, sounds good, mate. Thanks for the interview, James. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep, cheers, mate.
See you later.
Thanks.
And we're back from that nice interview from Strauss, which was quite interesting, on his thoughts on how Melbourne are going.
He didn't name any names with the laziest player, but...
No.
I think we can assume it's Brad Green, but...
Strauss.
What about Sin's Cal Morton?
Sin's Cal Morton
No
is...
comments on Sin's Cal Morton.
He did kick a goal last night.
Yeah, okay.
A goal.
Well done, Cal.
Very good, Cal.
That's
All right,
about...
we're just going to go to some SYN messages now.
This is a Benchwarmers Profile. Brian Scalabrine, currently playing as a forward for the Chicago Bulls, is the ultimate king of benchwarmers. Playing on NBA lists since 2001, he really hasn't done enough to cement himself as a starting player in the NBA. Brian has, however, achieved a kind of godlike status. When he does something incredible, the crowd goes nuts.
Scott, the white mama, don't do him like that!
Brian's job on NBA clubs of late has been more of doing stuff off of the field, being a huge morale boost for his supporters, as well as the players on his team. He brings a sense of humour to a somewhat serious game.
But in 5 years, you guys are going to forget. In 10 years, I'll still be a champ. In 20 years, I'll tell my kids I probably started. And in 30 years, I probably told them I got the MVP. So I'm really not too worried about it.
You can catch the Benchwarmers, 9 a.m. Sundays, only on SYN.
All right, you're back on Bound for Glory on SYN. Just text us in on 0427 767 767. We're going to go to an interview with Emma Quayle. No? All right. We're going to be talking, Matt's going to be talking about the Milne and Montagna saga.
Yeah, it seems to be one of those stories that seems to be coming back up, and it resurfaced again this week. The case regarding Stephen Milne allegedly raping a woman at St Kilda teammate Lee Montagna's house was reopened this week after already being investigated to death. The supposed scenario is that Milne entered the bed of said woman and proceeded to, quote-unquote, have his way with her, and she allowed it because she thought it was Montagna. How you could get that wrong is beyond me, but anyway, moving on. The reason for the case being reopened was that there was thought that evidence or information had been tampered with or was incomplete. After what seems like minimal investigation, Deputy Commissioner of Crime Graham Ashton said that the case was all but closed just days after it being reopened. Mr. Ashton said it was extremely unlikely that Milne or the alleged victim would be interviewed again. The end result of it is that we make sure everything is in fact complete and that ultimately we can put something on the public record that underlines the matter is finished and that it's done and dusted, Mr. Ashton said. It's obviously a sensitive topic, but it really felt like it was a reoccurrence of a bad dream, just a bad story we keep hearing over and again. Not even a bad dream, it's a done-to-death, boring dream about a case that had already been investigated thoroughly. The Saints have sort of been in the middle this year with their form, and the story being brought up again isn't really going to do anything good for their mental preparation, confidence, and general mindset of both Milne and Montagna. Ultimately, we saw the case reopened and closed without much of a thought. Seems like a lot of trouble for something so little. So, yeah, what do we think about the situation in its entirety, and is it time that the case was put to bed already and just letting St Kilda move on?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, the interesting thing is they wanted to stress, and Scotty Waters said this, that they're actually investigating the evidence going missing, not the actual case as such. They may go back and review the case, but it is mostly based around the evidence that's missing.
That was the point of it being opened this week. They opened it up to make sure that that things were going to be done and dusted so they could close it for good. And now they've closed the case again without it being complete.
Isn't that the same sort of thing that happened with Andrew Lovett and Jason Graham, where it was like, oh, I thought it was Jason?
Yeah, it's really sus, especially when it's somebody saying things to do with AFL footballers, because you don't know what their intentions are. We know the Kim Duthie saga, the Duff, up the Duff. Yeah, but look, you just don't know when it's somebody referring to an AFL footballer. It's about time that it was just put to bed and let both Milne and Montagna move on with the football. And look, Milne's a knob end. We don't like him.
Congratulations on the 500 goals.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Congrats, Milne. You're a knob end. We don't like you, but you're not a rapist. Basically, bottom line.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Is Stephen Milne or Hayden Ballantyne? Which?
Oh, Hayden Ballantyne. Can't. At least Milne discreetly goes about his business, and he celebrates if he gets a goal. If Ballantyne celebrates when he pinches or bites somebody or flops to the floor, he's a bigger flopper than Angus Wantfreeze.
Gets a post after the siren, celebrates.
Oh, that was a great moment of anybody that dislikes Fremantle and Ballantyne. If you watch that footage, it just makes you happy. Look,
what is it with St Kilda and young girls and all this? Like,
this wasn't necessarily a young girl, was it?
It was just an unwanting.
I think she was 20.
Yeah, I think she was.
Yeah, well,
she's not that young. They would have been that age at the time.
Yeah, you would have only been early 20s.
Like it's only mid-20s, so...
But look, do you reckon it happens at other clubs, or is it just in Kilda that it comes out?
Look, you don't know what goes on behind doors, I guess, so...
someone comes in and spoils behind doors.
Oh, you're funny. You're funny. You told a funny joke.
Thank
it was
you.
hilarious. No, Dawes just drops them. He doesn't need a spoil.
That's
he
true.
drops the ball for himself.
Mark Austin was horrible. I'm just going to say that.
That's a really sad moment when Mark Austin is a good match for Chris Dawes. Yeah. That's kind of when you kind of have to look at the situation and say, yeah, that's not right.
Actually, just one more thing about that game. I was really impressed with Keefe and how he played.
Yeah, he's not been bad all year, but...
he's a 20-year-old 200-centimetre backman, which is, not all that common.
It's good for his development, I guess, but he's probably not going to be there once the bigger names get back.
Look, I was a little bit wary every time he had the ball in hand, and if he went on a run, I think he kicked it into the forward line. It was probably the ugliest kick I've ever seen.
Why did they play Ben Reid forward? I don't...
And what happened to his funny kicking style?
Who, Ben Reid?
He had the
Twinkle
old Josh Kennedy going on from West Coast. It's beautiful.
Yeah, well, Ben Reid's never had a great sort of kicking action for forward. He's great around the field, but so
he's one of those players like Lindsay Thomas that doesn't like kicking for goal. If they have to think about it, I guess.
Oh, they're better. Those type of players are better on the run.
Yeah. Not having to think about it. Weak-minded, I call them.
Lindsay played well against Gold Coast.
He did play well. Against Gold Coast.
Yeah. And then he was unlucky with the suspension.
We're going to try go to the Emma Quayle interview again. No, we're not. We're having a few technical difficulties at the moment, so just bear with us.
Do you want to go over maybe previews of a few of today's matches?
Yeah, let's have a look at Essendon and Brisbane first up. I'm personally going to this game, very keen for it.
Wonder why that would be.
Oh, well, looking for a win.
Yeah.
Have you got any key matchups? At Etihad Stadium, so obviously Essendon have the instant advantage. They played Port there a few weeks ago, and you would have thought they would have flown over Port. But no, it was close, so it could be a close game, I'm thinking.
I'd like to see Joe Watson go head-to-head with Tom Rockcliffe. I think that would just be a magnificent battle in the midfield. I think the midfield's probably where both teams will just try. That's where the game's going to be won.
And Lovett is named on Brown. I assume that's not going to be the matchup, but...
What about Merritt on Fletcher?
It's dream stuff right there. Tips, boys?
Brisbane. I think Brisbane can win.
I've gone with Essendon. I think it'll be close, but I'll go with Essendon.
Yeah, go on Dons as well.
All right, we're going to try this interview with Emma Quayle again. We think we've got all our technical issues sorted out. So this is Emma Quayle from The Age, writer of the book...
The Draft?
Yeah, I just wanted the little intro there. Yeah, Emma Quayle from The Age.
How did you get into sports journalism, in particular AFL journalism, and was it something that you always wanted to do?
It was definitely something I always wanted to do. I was really into English when I was at school. That was probably my best subject, so I liked writing, and so I was always keen to use that in some way. And I just love sport. I guess I can remember watching the 92 Olympics on TV and being really interested in that and thinking that it might be something that I might like to write about. And it just so happened from there, really. I was lucky enough to get into the journalism course at RMIT. I did that for 3 years. And, it's tough after that, I suppose, to go out and try and find a job. There's not that many of them around these days. But, yeah, did that for 3 years and then got into The Age another year after I finished that course, and it's all kind of gone from there.
And do you find it to be somewhat of a personal challenge to work in an AFL media landscape that is mostly dominated by men?
I get asked that a lot, and I don't really, but it's a hard one to answer because it's probably all I've really known. I worked somewhere else for 12 months before I went to The Age, and but I've been in sport now for 12 years or so, since I was pretty young, so I haven't really got anything to compare it against. So that makes it a little bit hard to answer, but I haven't ever felt held back or that I haven't been able to do the things I want to do or that obstacles have really been put in my way because of gender. Certainly not with the clubs, certainly not at The Age. Like there's been none of that at all. We've got quite a few women in the sports department as well, so it's nothing I've really noticed. I don't have any of the war stories like some of the other guys, but I guess it is a little bit different to your average work environment.
And working in AFL media, is there great opportunity for women now as opposed to like generations past?
I think so for sure. I think there's a lot of us around. I know, as I just mentioned, we've got, 3 or 4 journos at The Age and then two of our editors as well are women. So there's certainly opportunities there. And you go out to jobs these days and there's always women there. I mean, it's just taken for granted these days. It's not unusual turn up and see 4 or 5. There's a press conference on, and even when I started, there were times occasionally we'd be the only female covering a game, but that was really rare and it's become more and more rare. So, yeah, there's definitely chances out there for people definitely in newspapers, definitely in radio. TV is probably the next step in terms of match coverage, and there's not all that many roles there that are being filled by girls at the moment, but hopefully that's kind of the next step.
Your book, The Draft, gave us some great insight into the search for AFL talent and followed the likes of Trent Cotchin and Cyril Rioli. Is it sort of exciting to follow these young players before their AFL careers and seeing them flourish at the top level?
Oh yeah, it's really exciting. That's one of the best bits of it, I think, just getting to know them when they're young and their families as well, because it's such an exciting year because anything's possible in that year. It's all sort of hope and optimism, and they're not all battle scarred yet. They're all hoping for good things. So yeah, it's been really good. And those boys in particular, like just to spend that year really getting to know them, you know, and their parents and siblings as well. You do take an interest in what happens to them. I love, you know, watching them play and seeing how they go. And, you know, it's funny because they don't change very much. Personality-wise, none of them have changed a single bit in the 5 years since I did that book. So, other than to, I guess, grow a bit older and more mature and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I've loved it. That was probably like the highlight in the end of doing it, just the relationships that you build up with these families over time and become a part of their life for that 12 months and to follow them since then has been really good fun.
Mm-hmm. And you worked with Adam Romanowskis to write 9 Lives following his career and his battle with cancer. What was it like working with someone like Adam? Yeah,
Adam was great to work with. It was a really good experience. Like, I guess the thing with doing a book is that it's such a lot of work that you really want to care about what you're writing about and feel that bit invested in it, because otherwise it would be really hard to write a book that you didn't care about, if that makes sense. So I was always interested in his story, and I always felt that there was a lot that we probably didn't know because he was understandably so private about it all at the time. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. With that book, I would go around to his place, you know, once every few weeks and sit down after dinner with Adam and his wife Belinda, and we just talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just for as long as everyone had energy, and then I would sort of go from there. But yeah, he was great. I mean, he was, as I said, he was very private at the time, but he was really willing with this to get the whole story out. I think it was important to him that he kind of got it all out there, and it was hard to do at times because obviously, you know, it was really difficult subject matter. But yeah, it's another one I really enjoyed for different reasons, I suppose. But yeah, that was a bit of a privilege for me, I suppose, to get to help him get his story out there.
Have you got any plans to release any more books in the future?
I can't say too much. I've got a couple of plans at the moment, but they're kind of in the works. So we'll see what happens with those in the next few weeks. But I would like to do another one. Like, as I said, it's a lot of work, and you don't have much of a life if you're trying to work full time and write a book. It's pretty time consuming, but I do enjoy like just really diving into it and getting invested in it, and just trying to get it done because it is a big challenge. So yeah, I would like to do one. So we'll see what comes of these couple of ideas, and hopefully in the next couple of months something will be underway.
And just for the upcoming draft, are there any young prospects coming through the system that you've got your eye on?
Well, I was lucky enough. I just got back home. Actually, I went away with the AIS AFL Academy. They have a 2 week international trip every year, and they went to Europe this year. They go Milan. They went to England, to Surrey, and to Paris. So I tagged along on that one, and that was really good. I mean, it was a great opportunity to get to know them. There were 30 boys on the trip and about 9 or 10 families as well. So, you know, that was really good just to get to know them in that casual sense and to watch them play was really handy. So, yeah, we'll see. Like, there's been a lot of talk about the father-sons already. Jack Viney and Joe Danaher are both really good players, and I think, you know, Essendon and Melbourne will probably have to pay first-round picks for both those boys, but they're going to be well worth it. And yeah, there's plenty more. There's a lot of really good midfielders around this year, so you know, it'll be interesting to see who comes through. And you know, there's one boy, Jake Stringer from Bendigo, who he had a really badly broken leg last year. About this time last year, he did it, and he's come back and just kicked 10 goals on the weekend. He first came back after the trip, so he's one that, you know, he's had a bit of hardship already. So it'll be nice to see how he progresses through the year, and he could end up being quite a high pick.
Just finally, do you have any tips for any listeners out there that have an interest in getting into sports journalism?
Yeah, it's hard. I think experience is the key. I know that when I was at uni, and even I had that year of working somewhere else before I went to the Age, and I just tried to build up a bit of a folio. You know, I went to the local paper and went to a few different magazines and just tried to get things published. I think if you can show that they've got some initiative and you know, an ability to sort of get stuff published, that really helps. That makes a good impression. So that's the one thing I'd say. And you know, it is a tough industry. It's a changing industry as well. I think, you know, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with newspapers, and does online completely take over, and how does that impact on journalists and what we do. So yeah, it's an interesting time for the industry, and you know, it's a tough one to get into because there just aren't that many jobs going around. But I think, you know, if you want to get into it, you will get into it, and that's persistence and getting things published and making people take notice of you, I guess.
Thanks for joining us, Emma, on Bound for Glory.
No worries at all.
Excellent,
thank you very much.
It's Emma Quayle from The Age telling us all about her career and her history with writing books and all that sort of exciting stuff. Now, before we get into the Geelong and Melbourne preview, we've got a bit of breaking news from our own Ethan Meldrum, which is exciting. Tom Gillies and Shannon Burns have been pulled out of the Geelong VFL side and now are Geelong's emergencies, so we can expect some Geelong late changes. So, look... Yeah, We're kind of sitting here thinking about who they could possibly be. Shannon Burns for Selwood we're thinking of, because Selwood apparently has an issue with...
ducking his head?
A bit of concussion. Yeah. And Gillies, he's a key position defender.
Yeah, third tall. We're thinking Mackie is possibly the other one, just because it's a like for like, but who knows? It's Melbourne, so they could probably swap Trent West for him.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter.
Well, it's just an estimated guess, so Robbo run with it.
We got it first.
Yeah. But yeah, Gillies and Burns pulled out of Geelong's side. That's a bit of breaking news for Bound for Glory.
Can Melbourne win?
No, it doesn't matter. They could pull out everybody. Yep, Geelong, Melbourne. Who are you thinking?
Who are we thinking?
Who are you bothering to think?
Margin.
Geelong by how much?
A casual 14 goals.
Although Geelong haven't been playing as well, so I'm only going to go about 10 goals, something like
Geelong at Geelong, though, you can never, especially with Melbourne at Geelong.
They did get pushed by Richmond, and North beat them there, didn't they?
Yeah. It's Richmond, though. So.
It is, yeah, look, I don't know.
Surely Melbourne will do better than losing by 186.
100, yeah, that's...
I think they'll do better than that.
Yeah, maybe 150. We'll see how we go. 30-point improvement. So we're all tipping Geelong by a lot.
Yeah,
I think so. All right, Gold Coast Fremantle at Metricon. Fremantle aren't great away. They're having a little bit of average form at the moment, but you wouldn't think Gold Coast would be good enough to get up without Ablett.
Nope. No chance. How long away is Ablett? Was that on the footy show? Did he mention something?
I thought it was 2 to 3 weeks according to the AFL website.
So was that last week?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
Well, my dream team's hoping it's one more week, like this week.
And they play GWS in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
so
surely they want him back by
that'll be interesting if they don't have him.
Carmichael Hunt's lining up on Crowley. There's Ablett sent a message.
Ooh. He's looking good at the moment. He's our friend Carmichael.
We do actually have a message relating to this game.
We do.
Strauss, who seems to be a long-term listener now, said, "I'll offer a Freo a pie and a Mars bar for both Dawson and Anthony. Sincerely, Clive Palmer." So
that's quite a generous offer from Clive.
Yeah, look.
I
wouldn't give that up.
What is Ross Lyon's obsession with Zach Dawson? I don't get it. They've got Alex Silvani, who they could be playing, but no, let's play Zach Dawson. That sounds like a good idea.
It's a bit of the case of Super Spud, so I don't know. Maybe a bit of man love, maybe a bit of he thinks he sees something that isn't actually there. You just don't know.
It's ridiculous, because Silvani's actually proven that he's a quality backman and has so much more potential than Zach Dawson ever had.
Possibly a trade target, maybe.
Who are we going with our tips, sorry?
Oh, Freo.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Just
50 points.
5 to 6 goals.
The last time Gold Coast played at Metricon was against Essendon, and Essendon haven't been in bad form by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm thinking it'll be close. I think Fremantle will get up, but it will be close.
All right, on to Saints and Hawks.
Match of the round.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I'm going to say the biggest thing here is who's going to play on Rewalt.
Sean Makers.
Yeah, our man.
Big showy.
Is Gibson out this week?
Yep, and Birchall's back in.
Is Gibson's out?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
I think the big key match will be who's going to play on Roughhead, to be honest. He's looking dangerous coming back from that Achilles injury.
They got Jason Blake.
Yeah, they've got they might have somebody to match up on Franklin, and they could do the double job on Franklin. But then there's Roughhead, who he's been looking good. He kicked a few goals to start the game last week, I believe.
So Bo Wilkes kicked a couple of games.
Yeah.
Wilkes has
got
been
subbed off, even though he was good.
Prematurely.
Yeah.
He's part of the Waterhead Academy too.
Wilkes.
Yeah, Wilkes.
Might mean
He's got a head on him.
Rewalt might actually get some ball, given that Gibson's out, because he's so good at the third up type player. Yeah, so that actually probably makes it a little bit closer. Not that Hawthorn's forward line will probably pretty much
decimate them. Yes.
Yeah. So St Kilda will at least kick some goals. So
Hawthorn didn't score in that third quarter last week though.
I hope Bruce isn't commentating this game, because he just, whenever it's Hawthorn, he
loves his Cyril and fucking Buddy.
Yeah. And Ruffy.
Delicious.
Oh, Ruffy's looking good, Ruffy.
It doesn't beat. I can't think of his name at the moment. He's the Collingwood kicking coach. He used to play for Collingwood and Richmond. What's his name? BT. Couldn't think of him. Brian Taylor. His love for when Neon Leon was playing. Going a bit off topic, boys. Tips.
Hawthorn.
Yeah, Hawks. Comfortably.
Is St Kilda's new home ground the G?
I don't know.
He's playing
Not
all the
sure.
games at the G.
I guess they're probably just playing the big games. I guess, although against Melbourne isn't really a big game. Yeah, I think Hawthorn would get up, but I wouldn't mind seeing a close game, but I'm not sure we will. Sydney Adelaide.
Game of the round.
Yeah.
Lots of game of the round.
They're all games of the round.
Is this the kind of game it depended who's at home as to who to tip? I think it's a big advantage for those players who playing
I would have
at
said
home,
it was more even if it was at Adelaide. But since it's at Sydney, I would say Sydney easily.
Yeah, Sydney pretty comfortably. If it's wet, Sydney comfortably plus more.
And Kurt Tip has been playing really well.
He has been playing well, but mostly at Adelaide. Yeah. So, having the home ground advantage for the interstate teams that aren't in Melbourne, they seem to do really well at their ground because they got the full support and they know the ground. They get to train on the grounds regularly, sort of thing. And when they have to go interstate and play somewhere that's not Melbourne, it can be very difficult.
And Josh Kennedy has just starred.
How many Brownlow votes would he be on right now?
A lot.
At least 12, I reckon.
Yeah, he'd be double figures, so he'd be really up there. And the thing with Sydney is they play a finals brand of footy, which is where you don't really want to particularly meet them in finals because they play that hard contested ball. So, and especially if it's a wet day, so they are certainly a team to watch. Even if they don't go as far as some might think, they're not a side you want to play in the finals.
Collectively deciding on Sydney?
Yeah, by
just
25.
30.
Yeah, 20 to 30
Can
points.
they step up this year?
Sydney?
Be that top 4 team?
I think they could
with their draw, definitely. But if they had a more even draw, probably top 8. You'd think the normal around that mark they seem to be.
The normal 6th that they get.
Carlton GWS, the real game of the round.
Yeah. They're resting good players for a change, doing something smart.
Carlton or GWS?
Both of them?
Question mark?
But Carlton's resting Judd and who was the other one?
There was Cruiser meant to be out, but he's back.
Wait,
the other
you
one
mean
Wade is
Wade?
out.
So they took out a couple of key forwards, so obviously they don't think too
Good
much
old
of
Kevin
GWS.
Sheedy playing a bit of mind games at the moment. In comes Satanza or Alp, and out goes Jeremy Cameron after kicking a bag of 5 last week, as well as Izzy Folau's on the.
He's got an illness, I think.
That's what he gets for actually achieving something. Like
illness.
Kick 5 goals. Oh no, you don't.
Cameron.
We want that first draft pick. Out you go. So.
Yeah, this will be easy, Carlton.
Yeah.
At indoors at Etihad, 100 points or not?
Under just purely because of the resting. So
I think GWS has actually been surprisingly good.
Yeah, I reckon about 10 goals because I don't reckon they'll get up to a big lead and then they'll sort of just take the foot off the pedal.
It's hard to gauge GWS at the moment. Obviously, they're losing games, and you expect that. But some games they'll lose convincingly. Others they'll be quite competitive. Against Adelaide, they were magnificent.
Good to see Port Adelaide's mascot back, Dean Brogan.
Yeah.
He's part of the Waterhead Academy.
Yeah, and no Chad Corns, which is weird because is he injured or what's soreness is what's listed.
General soreness.
Yeah.
Obviously resting for next week's big clash.
Against the Gold Coast, which should be a very good game.
One that they may possibly be competitive.
Where is it? Is it at Manuka?
Manuka.
Yeah, bit of a neutral-ish.
5,000 people will be attending.
Yeah.
Well, for anyone who's doing the gauntlet tipping, if got GWS win, it's easy from then on. You just pick GWS as opponents. So makes it easy. So.
So we're just reading a lovely message that's come in. We'll get to it after we've done the rest of the previews, as we will the other messages. Port Adelaide, Richmond at Port.
Should be a good one, actually. Port have known to be, in past years, be a soft team, but they've gone a lot better this year, certainly with acquisitions like McCarthy, Brad Ebert.
Yeah, I think he's been big.
Yeah. Certainly going to be closer than I would personally like. I'm still tipping Richmond, but yeah, thoughts, boys?
Yeah, Port Adelaide for me, just because it's at Port. If it were in Melbourne, I'd be more inclined to go with Richmond. But Port haven't been bad this year. They haven't been sensational, but they've been much improved on last year. I still like them as that really dark horse for the top 8, just because they have all the makings, I guess. But I'm going to go with Port. It'll be good if Port win, because then that middle group sort of gets a bit closer again, which is good to see. So yeah, I'm going to go with Port.
Yep.
I had a feeling this round was sort of an easy round to tip, with the exception of this game. So this was I thought the toughest sort of game to tip.
Well, there's a couple, I guess, with Saints, Hawthorn and Sydney
Geelong,
Adelaide.
Yeah.
Essendon, Brisbane will be close.
I think this is the kind of game that if whoever you tip, if the opposition wins, you're just like, I knew they were going to win. Because it's that anyone could win. They're both pretty frustrated. They've had a few close losses. They want to win.
It's definitely not a round to change your tips at all. If you've got a team, just stick with them, for God's sake.
So, what were the other tips?
Port Adelaide.
I'm going Tigers.
Ooh,
yeah,
good man.
I'm going.
You're wearing the
Richmond.
jumper today, I see. The Tigers jumper.
Yeah.
No, the Tigers jumper, I've seen.
Yeah,
West Coast, North Melbourne at West Coast. I believe they played round 1 last year over there, and West Coast were quite good last year, and North Melbourne got up.
No? West Coast won by 4 points.
Oh, well, close enough.
Good enough for us.
Close only counts in horseshoe.
Win, 4-point loss, same thing.
With Kennedy being out, do you reckon North has a chance?
Nope.
No, still no. Still no. The midfield dominance is just too much. That's why they're such a good team, West Coast, because they get a strong midfield. Kerr's stepped up until he gets injured next. Knock on wood.
North are a lot better than people give them credit for, in my opinion. I mean, it was, 2008 or 7 that they were top 4?
Yeah, 2007.
Yeah.
But not over there. I don't give them a chance. If we're in Melbourne, it'll be an interesting game, because look, if Richmond can push West Coast in Melbourne, anybody can. So, look, over there, West Coast, probably by about 5 goals.
Yeah, I'm going to say West Coast, although one thing that really surprised me during the week, Goldstein had 64 hit-outs or something ridiculous like that in the VFL. Still can't crack back into the side, I don't think.
I think they're trying to go for more run with Cam Peterson.
I'm surprised he hadn't got a game before that. He's a solid player.
Yeah, he was going well last year, and I couldn't believe he was just getting kicked in and out of the side.
Just out of interest, what is Goldstein's sort of contract status?
He's signed.
He is signed. Okay.
Are we going to jump to one last message from SYN? We'll get back and read out some text messages.
It was all West Coast here.
It's time for a Panorama FYI.
The 2011 announced carbon tax aims to reduce Australia's carbon footprint by taxing industries on the amount of carbon they expel. As a result, heavily polluting industry products become more costly, while environmentally friendly industries become cheaper for the average consumer. Greener products become the norm in households rather than a luxury, and behavioural change towards fewer emissions occurs domestically and industrially. However, the plan is less than perfect, with many heavy polluters being exempt from the tax.
Get informed. Listen to Panorama 4:30 every weekday on SYN, or head to syn.org.au/panorama.
Dear, come listen to this.
What's that, dear?
Why, it's arts and culture on the wireless. Bring your monocle.
Oh, what's the show called?
Arts Mitten, 4 p.m. Sundays on SYN.
And we're
Welcome
back
to Bound for Glory. Sorry. we're going to read out a few of the messages that's been sent in. So
Oh, God.
anyone who thinks they're going to send any more in, that's fine. Make sure you do it next week. But we've got a couple here. The first one was, please don't be Guthrie or Smets.
As far as
Supercoach.
the outs for late outs,
Geelong.
the potential late outs for Geelong.
I hope it's going.
And the other one was also Geelong related. On my way to Geelong to follow the Mighty D's, yes, I went last year. While there is a good chance Hawkins will kick a bag, I feel that Melbourne can be competitive. I have a feeling Melbourne will get within 5 goals. Remember 2008, we lost our first 2 by 100 points and then only lost by 5 goals against Geelong.
A bit of wishful thinking there.
I
then.
actually know who that is, and he's part of the Melbourne cheer squad.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think Melbourne's going to get within 5 goals.
All right, I think that wraps up another week for Bound for Glory. Magnificent show, boys.
Once again.
And you can expect it every week on Saturdays at 10 a.m. If you're a fan of news, read the Big Footy News because it's magnificent and we love it.
Bigfooty.com.
Yeah, at bigfooty.com, of course.
Another SYN show run by one of our panel members, Kit Harvey. Bring on the sunshine, 10 o'clock Sunday nights on SYN.
Check it out. And Sergeant Supercoach on Twitter. Very accurate source of all your fantasy football information.
Love the Sarge.
Dream Team.
And you can follow us on Twitter as well at Bound for Glory FM or on Twitter at facebook.com/Bound for Glory FM.
Cool. See you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week.
See you.